Bryant Opportunity Academy. In September 2017, administration presented to the board a report on the social, emotional, and character education program for schools. In alignment with that presentation, the Bryant Opportunity Academy will be added to the district's behavioral continuum of services, allowing students to receive social, emotional, and character education supports based on need. Bryant will serve 100 students with the ability to expand to 175 students. It is recommended that the board approve the Bryant Opportunity Academy as an expansion of our behavioral continuum of services to start operation in fall 2018.
President Rohde and Vice President Logan and Superintendent Thompson and Dr. Irving and wonderful board members. We are excited and happy to talk about this great new addition to our continuum and to our behavior continuum. As Dr. Mike read earlier, the board gave us some direction earlier in the fall to look at our behavior continuum. If you remember back as we put in MTSS, we did an excellent job of doing the academic piece. And so you have the core instruction, you have Tier 2 and Tier 3 interventions. As we looked at it, because of budget cuts through the years, we haven't had the opportunity to really fully develop the behavioral continuum in a robust way in which we would like it. And so what we end up with is some holes in our continuum. And so to address some of those situations, we have some excitement going on. We don't call our kids at-risk kids. And this whole name of Bryant Opportunity stems from our superintendent, who believes that if our kids get the high expectations and have the supports in place, that all of our kids have the opportunity to be great. And this is what this whole foundation is about, is giving all of our kids the opportunity to be great.
As Terrell talked a little bit about the continuum, we want to do the continuum on two sides, the regular ed side for students who don't have disabilities and for students who do have disabilities. So having the right students in the right places for the right reasons is very important. Otherwise, you begin to put too much of a burden on your delivery system with too many kids that tend to burn out teachers who are trying to make a difference with kids in their lives but feel frustrated because they can't. So if you look at some of the needs of why we need to do this, as you look at the robust safety net that was at the state level that has begun to deteriorate over time, there's less and less options for our students who have disabilities. There's only 2 crisis beds at Wichita Children's Home, and there's fewer opportunities for them to receive hospitalization and more supports across the network. Therefore, our Griffenstein Day program has kind of filled that need, where we take students who have more severe need, who need more supports in much smaller class size. So we would say maybe their intensity and frequency of behavior difficulties is high, so that we can't overload that program because it has such high need. Our schools in our high poverty areas also have needs when we look at behavioral difficulties, and what we find sometimes is those students who are referred may have difficulties, but then they're referred to one of our day schools, which they don't have in common that severity of needs. So you've got students with less severe needs being placed with students with more severe needs. So the opportunity for us to expand an option in Bryant Academy would give us this option, so that we could have a middle ground where students who may come from the therapeutic foster family situations or come in through psychiatric residential treatment facilities need stabilization and support, but may not need the emphasis that we would have at Griffenstein Day School. So this really gives us an opportunity to have supports in a smaller setting for students who really need those caring adults to work with them. As well as our comprehensive schools, we currently have several elementary PBS, which we call our classrooms that support students with disabilities, that are maxed out. In other words, we try not to have more than 9 kids in a teacher's caseload. And I was hoping, as we left for winter break, that We didn't have too many move-ins. We had like 3 or 4 move-ins the first day we got back from Christmas break, because you just don't want to overload these people who are doing such good work to work with our students. So this addition on the students with disability at Bryant will allow us to have a little flexibility in the system and allow our teachers to be able to manage the caseloads better. On the regular ed side, we all know that when we talk about trauma, working with the whole child and what students are faced with as they grow up, they need an alternative program. We know what they need it at the high school level, but sometimes they also need it in the early years when they're really having these formative years, being able to regulate their behavior and have replacement behaviors that can teach them how to cope. So we're really excited that we can put some resources for early on supports for kids and start to change that trajectory so that students don't drop out. And so on both sides of this continuum, we're excited.
So as we look at our Bryant Opportunity, we wanted to build in tradition, we wanted to build in family, we wanted kids to walk on this campus and be a part of something bigger than themselves. And so we are calling it the Bryant Opportunity Academy, the Hornets. Many Hornets, but one nest, because kids will be coming from all over the city, but they make up this one part of this family. Focusing on school pride, responsibility, nurturing, campus involvement. So really making sure that kids have systems in place that they feel a part of our campus from day one and have the responsibility not only for the campus, but also building their responsibility for themselves. The vision is a transformational academy where students grow and mature in the ABCs, academics, behavior, and character. We've got some formatting issues when it came over. So as we deal with it, the focus is going to be on academics. And we want our kids to do well academically, to be focused, to grow in their academics. But we also want to address the behavior. And how do we give kids other strategies in terms of their current behavior so that they can be more successful in schools. And then the other piece is character, what they're doing when no one's looking. How do we develop that piece in our students? The mission is just to give students the opportunity to learn and demonstrate responsible behavior, to express feelings and needs appropriately, to develop positive self-esteem, and to improve academic functioning. What we're finding out with many of our students who may have behavior issues, they're not an issue academically if we can get them engaged in the curriculum. And so really making sure that we're giving those students those opportunities to be successful academically. But then the second piece is we recognize there's some trauma that's going on, but how do we express those issues, those feelings in an appropriate manner and not in an inappropriate manner? Booker T. Washington said it best. It says, success is to be measured not so much by the position that one has reached in life as by the obstacles which he has overcome. Really focusing on our students and building that resiliency. If there's one characteristic, amen, that we want to really give our kids, it's that ability to overcome situations and to be resilient. It's an innovative campus. It's a one-of-a-kind campus that you're going to find anywhere in this region, and we're going to have it here in Wichita. We're going to take a blended approach. It's a more intensive building-wide behavior management system and a smaller student-to-teacher ratio, and so we're looking at smaller class sizes. We're putting wraparound services there with behavior replacement approach. Again, taking into account the students' emotional traumatic backgrounds and behaviors. It will serve kids K through 6. The focus is really on that wraparound services, making sure kids have the additional counseling, the additional social work time, that kids can really work on that character and emotional development.
We want to pull in partnerships, as well as Dr. Thompson stressed in our community partnerships and how important they are. So we want to look at maybe partnering with Wichita State and the counseling. We want to partner with ComCare, bringing in wraparound services to make sure families get the supports they need in one place, so that they don't have to tend to go to a different place to try to build that foundation of supports.
We will have a blended academic instructional approach using both traditional instruction as well as online, the Edgenuity curriculum, and hands-on STEM activities with project-based learning. And so again, getting kids engaged in the learning, making it very hands-on, but also taking problems in society and letting kids process that and work on their teamwork. So we're working on soft skills as well as working on the academic skills all at the same time. You've got program components there in which we'll have daily student staff group meetings, development of intervention plans, and formal and informal assessments, tailored academic instruction, strong liaison with family and community services, and making sure that not only are we working with the kid, but we're also working with the families so that the success that kids are having at school can also spill over into the home and the community. There are 3 levels that'll be at Bryant. We have our transition program. Our transition program is our 45-day placement. It's for students who have been kind of moved around from school to school or even from community to community. We allow them a chance to have some stability, to have a place that they can feel safe and to be able to do assessments there. And after the 45 days, we would then make a educated placement in terms of where they would go next. The second step is our PBS program. These are students who need, again, additional supports in terms of discipline as well as behavior replacement strategies, but also need some other wraparound services in terms of counseling, in terms of smaller class sizes. The other piece is the bridge program. These are kids who are regular ed and special ed who may be conduct disorder, may have some struggles, but are able to get the strategies that they need that they can be successful. And the whole process is to develop the kid so the kid could go back to their comprehensive setting. A schedule, so you can kind of see and we can walk through a schedule. There's built-in project-based learning time, and so structured learning time, ELA, that's English and math time, lunch, PE, and then we have that science STEM time. And then the other piece that we really like is the team/community building time. Every day, kids will sit down with their teacher and talk about the day and decompress the school day. Also, kids can see how their behavior, positive and negative, affects the entire community that they're a part of. And so spending time there. Because we're having the wraparound services there, we're also able then to provide opportunities for counseling services for our partners built into the schedule now, that parents could come in and do some family counseling as well as student counseling with the kids. Professional development. As we look at professional development, we wanted to make sure that we had enough time built in for the staff to really address our students. And so we have built a schedule that they have 300 minutes of plan time weekly, as well as 300 minutes of staff development / team time. Time is built in for wraparound services on Monday, where we can bring all of our support services and wraparound services around the table along with our teachers. There's time in there for goal review. Every single week, we'll be looking at our kids' goals and the progress that they're making. Then the other piece becomes crisis prevention and de-escalation. How do we see the signs, but also how do we de-escalate when our kids are starting to escalate? What kind of things can we put in place, not only on the staff side, but also on the student side? Another component that we are excited about at Bryant will be the new intake center. We'll be able to provide services and benefits to our community, testing new students who come into our community, be able to identify and research and develop IEP plans for those kids. So as kids are coming in from out of district, we can research and make sure we have the appropriate IEP in place, as well as a transition plan for that kid. We're able to do testing, efficient placement of students based on data. And so making sure that we get all of our students in the right place when they go. The other piece is the appropriate supports for students upon entering the new school, both academically and behavior. I love this picture. It's a group of kids working in groups, as well as a teacher working with a small group. But being able to provide the data to the school so that as a kid is entering in, they have the academic data as well as any social data that we've been able to research and pull in so that that kid can be successful from first day, whether it be that counselor greeting that kid when they get off the bus, or having time built in that schedule for that kid to meet with a social worker. We close again with this quote from Dr. Booker T. Washington. Just simple. about success is being measured not so much by the position that one has reached in life as by the obstacle which he has overcome. Questions?
We have a few. We'll start with Cheryl.
Hey, thank you very much. I think this is long overdue, and if we do it right, it will be a great help for our district. So, and it sounds like we're well on the way to doing it right. My first question, and you talked about it a little bit when you talked about the 3 different levels, the transition, the PBS, and the bridge program. But my question is, in the transition program, I am assuming that there is going to be criteria of who goes there. For example, the student has come from another district with some special needs, or they've come out of a difficult foster situation, or a whole lot of other things. Who's the determiner of who gets into that first 45-day transition piece?
Right. That's a great question. All students will be placed from the Student Support Services Department. And so there's criteria for each, absolutely for each level, and that decision is going to be centrally made to make sure that we're getting the kid to the right campus for the right supports.
So once a student walks into one of our comprehensive schools, we determine there's some kind of need, there immediately kicks in the evaluation piece that would send them over to Bryant. Is that what would happen?
To get them to our intake centers where we could do some testing, absolutely.
A little bit like we do with our ESOL kids that arrive.
The exact same approach.
Okay.
We take in about, over 100 students from facilities such as Caw Valley and that per year, and then we take in a lot of foster family or therapeutic foster families that sometimes they don't know where their records are, so we would help locate those records and make sure that they're current and what type of placements the students would be.
Okay. And my next question along that same line is with the bridge program, you're really wanting to bring them in and send them out as soon as they're ready. Is that correct?
Yes, we're trying to get the kid to the least restrictive environment, but we realize that there may be a kid who finds great success on that campus, and as a parent and as a team, they can decide that that kid would remain on that campus because that's the best place for that kid in terms of his or her success.
Okay, because that was my next question. With the wraparound services, it looks like we might have some kids that arrive as a first grader and might stay there through a 6th grader. Is that a possibility, or are we even looking at doing that?
That could be a possibility, absolutely.
Okay, but that's not our priority.
No, right. the goal is not to keep kids there. The goal is to literally give kids the success and the strategies that they need that they can be successful on their own comprehensive campus.
Okay, great. And I think you've answered my second question, which was about assigning. I assume that we will be providing students for this program, busing for these students?
Absolutely, yes, ma'am.
Okay. And we are going to learn some new things about trauma and dealing with our kids. We have the PBS programs out in our comprehensive buildings. Have we thought about how we're going to share what we learn here to be able to get it back out so that we are providing some different kinds of services for those programs as well?
Absolutely. And so this becomes almost a model that we can roll out to the comprehensive setting in terms of a successful situation. And so we want to make sure that we have this strong program for those kids who need that support, and then being able to roll out. Because as we look at the continuum, a kid could transition into Bryant as well as transition back out to Bryant, depending upon how that kid is being successful.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Well, I think we have 3 Gemini programs. Thank you very much. Great report, and I am going to watch this very closely. Thank you.
Julie.
Is there a principal identified for the Bryant Opportunity Academy?
Yes, ma'am. His name is Claudio Flores, Mr. Flores.
Can you tell us something about him and his
Mr.
background?
Flores is an outstanding educator in Wichita Public Schools. He's currently an assistant principal at Northwest High School and doing an excellent job there. Part of his background, he was a transition to teaching individual who, after years of working at a private residential facility, came into teaching. So he has background working within the foster care system as well as working as a liaison with the EB Learning Center there in Newton, Kansas. strong background in terms of he looks a lot like students of poverty, and he's come through that. And so he's able to share his story of how he was able to overcome that situation. And I think students are really going to be able to connect with him, but also really find motivation from his story.
Great. Well, and it's good that he's involved from the get-go so that he can be a part of all of the planning and all of that. Yeah.
Yes.
Ernestine.
I assume that this proposed, am I on? Proposed schedule is exactly that, just a proposed. It's the idea that, and so I'm puzzled by the 7 to 8 o'clock. Is that the assuming that children will be at the school at 7 a.m.?
Yes, this will be an early start school, and so we will begin at 7 o'clock.
Okay, and then children can be bussed in to this school, and so their go-home time is 2:10.
Yes, ma'am.
And so this is a suggested schedule, not, so teachers could make some choices in that too.
Yes, I mean, we'll sit down and start problem solving with the staff once the staff is fully hired. But this isn't the schedule in terms of is in there in terms of philosophy of blocks of time that we want,
Right.
so that teachers understand that, as well as the master schedule has to fit together because we've got lunch and we've got our plan time and our team community times.
That's the next question. I misunderstood or didn't hear you say how much plan time the teachers would have?
300 minutes of plan time a week.
Okay, thank you.
Ron.
Yes, what's the teacher-parent conference going to look like here? How is that going to, or what's their, I guess, communication going to be like?
In terms of?
The student, I guess, assessment, just feedback to the parent, you know,
Right.
teacher, parent contact.
Parents will have assessments because of the weekly goals, so they'll know how their kid is doing every single week. But they'll also
Okay.
be a part of the synergy system, and so parents can check grades as well. And so it's just as any other comprehensive setting. Parent-teacher conferences may look different only because we have some time built into the school day. And so if parents are available, they could definitely schedule time where they could sit down with the entire team to talk about their kid.
Grading, is it going to be pretty traditional, or?
It'll be traditional, but it'll be traditional in the sense that the project-based learning, there'll probably be some type of artifact at the end because we want our kids to work on real-life situations. And so we want them to solve a problem, present. So the assessment piece may look a little bit different. It may not necessarily be paper pencil for the project-based as much as it may be a presentation to the board or a presentation to district personnel.
Thank you.
Ben.
So forgive my ignorance on the continuum of supports, especially at the Tier 3 level, but I was wondering at like a Tier 3 type facility or a program in our continuum service, is there opportunities for students to participate in extracurriculars like fine arts?
Yes, in a short answer. Yes, within the Bryant project, because again of such a small campus piece, we had to limit some of those electives, and so some of the art pieces would be more within kind of that project-based time. But we're really focusing on that whole STEM piece in terms of getting kids hands-on in terms of the science piece more so than anything, and then having that PE time where they're that physical activity time.
Thank you.
That is all the questions. Now all we need is a motion and a second. We can get this off the ground.
I move that the board approve the Bryant Opportunity Academy as an expansion to our behavioral continuum of services to start operation in the fall of 2018.
Second.
I have a motion by Julie and a second by Cheryl. That motion passes 7-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Neil. Thank you, Terrell.